Good morning. It's Friday, the 23rd of June. This is our last full week of June. Next Saturday, of course, we start into July 1st. I'd like to focus just for a few minutes here on a passage of scripture from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 21. This is what Jesus says to the disciples and to us as well. He says, "Don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Rather store your treasures in heaven, where moth and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. For wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be." My brother, 7 years older than I, his name was Ted, he loved books. I love books too. If you look around my library, there's quite a few books. Anyway, he loved books, and he had them all Dewey Decimal System, and he had them filed in boxes so that he could find whatever he needed. But he looked forward to a time where he would have a big library where he could display all his books on the shelves and things like that. I remember way back, well, it was probably 15, 20 years ago, we were moving from one house to another, and I had told him that I had gathered up literally 20, 25 boxes filled with books and had brought them to a Christian college library for them to use what they could and to distribute to other places who needed them. And he says, "I don't know how he could do that." He says, I can't get rid of books. They're so precious to me. And I says, "Well, where are your books?" And he says, "Well, they're in boxes in the garage." Well, I said, "Well, it's not doing you much good in the garage, is it?" And he says, "Yeah, but one day I'll have this big library." Well, life sort of just caught up with him, and they never did get that library. Finally, they had to retire, and they were going to be moving into a smaller two-bedroom apartment, and so they didn't have room to store all these books, so he decided, okay, now is the time to give them away. And he opened them up, and all of the books were completely filled with mildew. He had to throw all of them away. And he called me up, and we were talking, and he mentioned this, and he says, "Gareth, you're right. You gave your books away, the ones that you weren't using in that particular moment, you gave them away, and I hung on to them because they're precious for me, and now they're not worth anything to anybody, not even to me." That story and this passage reminds me that it's good not to hang on to things too tightly, because ultimately, if it's not mildew, it's age or rust or moth. Things tend to deteriorate and be destroyed over time if they're not used. And so what we're not using, let's choose to give away so that other people might have good value and use for the things that we're not using. Okay, this isn't supposed to be about decluttering so much, but rather the second part, it says, rather put your treasure in heaven. Build your treasures in heaven. And I think by giving things that we are not needing away to others, that's one of the ways that we build up treasures in heaven. Well, I hope you have a good time thinking through what are the things that we can give away, who are the people that we can bless with what we have, and that especially with those things we're not using. And so build up treasures in the place that ultimately will matter for all of eternity. God bless you, church. Praying for you today.